Before you begin, pause this video and add this into your sketchbook. What you will need before you begin this project will be your notes already drawn in your sketchbook. You'll also need a piece of wax paper, or you can use anything that you have in your house for a palette, a paper plate, a piece of aluminum foil, a piece of saran wrap, anything that's disposable. You can go ahead and use one of the wax papers that I provided in your packet, and then you'll need all 5 of the colors from your packet. You also will need a cup for water. You can use an old yogurt container or a plastic cup, and some paper towels. Next, you'll need to add all 5 colors to your palette. Go ahead and use your palette knife to do that. Make sure that you wipe the palette knife really well with your paper towel in between each color so that you don't mix them. We don't want to mix them just yet. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start painting our color wheel, and the first colors we'll add are the primary colors. So that will be the circles on our color wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and grab all 3 primary colors and add those to the circle, making sure I wash my brush in water in between colors and dry it off with a paper towel. If you don't dry your paintbrush off every time you dip it in water, your paints get really watery and your colors are kind of faded. So make sure you don't forget that step. Okay, the easiest way to tackle the secondary colors is to go ahead and do the whole secondary and tertiary colors all together. So red and yellow make orange. So I'm going to start by mixing orange and placing that in the square, and then red orange will go in the triangle closer to the red, and yellow orange will go closer to the yellow. So generally speaking, yellow tends to be a weaker color, so you want to start off with a little more yellow and a little less red when you're mixing your orange. And you're going for an in-between jack-o'-lantern type orange for your secondary color. Okay, so for the yellow orange, I'm just going to go ahead and add more yellow and bring in some of that orange, making sure that you can see the difference between the two, and I'll place that closer to the yellow. Red orange, of course, I need to add a little bit more red, and I'll place that in the triangle closest to the red. You should be able to see a difference between all 3 of your shapes. Okay, and the rest is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and do green next. Again, making sure I grab a little bit more yellow and a little less blue, because blue tends to be stronger than yellow. And mix a middle green, a yellow green, and that will go closer to the yellow in the triangle closest to the yellow, and a blue green, which will go in the triangle closest to the blue. Wash my brush, dry it off on a paper towel, and then I'm going to go ahead and do purple next. So red and blue make purple. I'll add a little bit more red to get my red purple. Make sure that you can see a difference between each one of your shapes. So my purple wasn't quite right, so I'd add a little bit more red. And then I will add blue to get blue violet, and that's going to go closest to the blue. Now my color wheel is completed. The next section of our notes is all about value. So value is lights and darks. And what we're going to do for this section is place our hue in the middle, and tints will go on the left and shades will go on the right. So there should be 3 boxes on each side of your hue square. So you could use red or blue for this section. I'm going to go ahead and grab blue, and my unmixed color is going to go in that hue square in the middle. We'll mix our tints first, and tints are the hue plus white. I'm going to add just a little bit of white for the first square. You want it to be enough to see a difference between your hue color. And then I'll just keep adding more white as I work further to the left. When you're all finished, I should be able to see a difference between all of the tints. To mix your shades, you're going to add blue and just a little bit of black. You want to start with a small amount of black because it likes to take over. I always like to place a little bit of the color next to it before I add it and see if I can see a difference. So I had to add a little bit more black so that I could tell that there was a noticeable difference between the two squares. So just like how you did your tints, you're going to continue adding more and more black to this color and fill in the rest of your shades. So intensity is the last section of our notes, and this is all about how bright your colors are. Colors are at their most intense when they are straight from the container. So anytime you start mixing anything with your colors, they become more and more muted. So what I'll do first is grab red straight from the container. I'm not mixing anything with it, and add it to the section that says high. So high just refers to it's a high intensity color. So what I want to do is mute the color but not change the value. So what I'll need to do is mix a gray and slowly add that to the red. So first you'll need to mix your gray, which is white and black. So similar to how I mixed my gradient on my value squares, I'm going to slowly add just a little bit of gray to my red, and notice what happens to the intensity of that color. You should recognize the difference between all four of your squares, and by the time you get to the end, it should almost look gray. And that's it, you're all done with your notes for this page.